You are in the temple of the rants, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. This one is from Mr. Tangelo, who says to rant about 8chan. Frankly, I haven't spent a lot of time on 8chan. The way I see it, like, all the additional Chan boards, because there used to be a lot of them. I think 8chan was probably, like, the biggest alternative to 4chan. But always what this comes down to is a natural sort of tribalism or splintering into groups that always happens anytime something gets big enough. Actually, I'm just going to use this as an excuse to talk about something I was thinking about earlier, which is the fact that anytime something gets too big, it inevitably loses the point. And the reason for that is that it becomes unsustainable. It has to fulfill too many different needs, and so whatever specific needs it originally fulfilled, it no longer does. I think of, for instance, Anime Expo. My experience going to Anime Expo was that it was literally too big of a convention because they've hyped it so much, they've advertised it so much, and they've tried to pull in every type of anime fan, but it can't service all of them reasonably. Like, it's too big for what a convention is. It's too big to function as something that is enjoyable for the people there. It works better for advertisers and the people running the convention who just want the numbers to be as high as possible and to, have as many eyes on as many products, as many, important labels, things they're trying to sell as possible, which is why something like Comic-Con works. It's just a big fucking ad that people go to because they hear about it and they think of it as the big thing. But as soon as something becomes the big thing, it no longer is as good for any individual involved as it would have been if it was smaller. And this is just basically how niche things work, is that anything that's broad is trying to appeal to as many people as possible on a shallow level, whereas something that is niche is appealing to a smaller number of people on a deeper level. So with 4chan, obviously the culture of 4chan is inherently niche. The point of it is to be a place for people to explore their niche interests, to talk about things in more depth with people who know more about it. Well, the more people enter the website, the more mainstream it becomes, the more the conversation gets boiled down, the more it no longer has the same depth. Now, personally, I think that what's great about 4chan is that if you're using it, if you're browsing it right, you're never going to not have the deep conversations because those people are still there. Like, for instance, if you go on A, yes, there will be a lot of threads about the flavor of the month seasonal anime, but if you ignore those threads and find the deeper shit with the people who really know what they're talking about, there is no anime that A has not heard of. There is no show that you can go in there and not be able to have a discussion with somebody about who has at least seen it or heard of it or will post pictures from it. Like, you can always find somebody there. So I've never felt the need to go any deeper than that, especially because I don't really, talk to people on the internet in the first place that much anymore. But, like, I understand why things like 8chan happen, because, like, at periods where it felt like 4chan was becoming diluted by having too many new people, all those summers of kids coming in and, like, the site gaining so much notoriety, people go, oh, this isn't interesting anymore. I want to go somewhere where it's a smaller group, tighter knit, back to the niche, more interesting conversations, more intimate, more personal, a better sense of identity because there's not so many people involved that it loses sense of itself. My friend in high school who used to share a room with me, he was like, he had originally been big into 4chan. He eventually got into 8chan, started splintering into other boards, and he was one of those guys who would be like, oh, 4chan's shit now, you gotta go to the other chans. And, like, I know people who go to, like, every fucking obscure image board. There are hundreds of them. There are tons of ones that are like, they're all about trying to be like having the deepest conversation or whatever. The most like obscure knowledge is what they're all seeking. But I think a lot of it just comes down to posturing or just like wanting to be the cool kids, like wanting to be in the in crowd and like the thing that not as many people have heard of. Which it's funny because like 8chan also is big enough that there are tons of people who are like, oh well, I left 8chan 10 years ago because it got too big, and then now they're on whatever other chan. I remember like 99 chan, all these other chans that had like, you know, increasingly specific boards for, you know, more and more niche interests, and I think that's cool. You know, like I remember the Lolly Yuri board on 99 chan being one that I went to a few times, because where the fuck else are you gonna find something that specific? But like, ultimately for me, it's like I'm not really interested in having conversations with people online anyways. I just kind of look for things I'm interested in, have my own opinions about them, and don't really care what anyone else has to say, because I'm an asshole. So can't say I've ever really spent any time on 8chan at all. Yeah, I guess that's my thoughts.